Good morning, everyone. I am Melissa Green. I'm a technology accessibility specialist with the Center for Instructional Technologies Technology Accessibility Team. Our team works to ensure that all technology users, including those with disabilities, have a functional and accessible technology experience with the university's websites and the technologies we use for teaching, learning, and doing the business of the university. You can find more information about our efforts on our website at accessibility.ua.edu. Today's session covers how to use Adobe Acrobat Pro DC to create accessible interactive PDF forms, adding fillable form fields and field descriptions, setting the tab order, tagging, and other PDF form accessibility tasks. This is one of our most advanced PDF accessibility workshops. If today's session has you feeling a little over your head, you might check out one of our recorded basic PDF webinars on our YouTube channel. When we offer this session in the classroom, it is as a hands-on workshop. On the screen, and I'm pasting now in the chat, is a link you can use to access the exercise files we use when we teach this in the classroom. I don't advise trying to follow along in those today during the webinar. Most folks find it too difficult to manage those multiple windows. However, I thought I'd provide them in case you'd like to try to follow along with the webinar recording later, so you can stop and pause and rewind and follow along at your own pace. A quick moment for housekeeping. This slide includes a picture of me. I have my webcam turned off, but I thought you might like to see who you're speaking with today. To improve audio quality, I've muted everyone by default, but when you want to talk, just select the microphone option from the Zoom control bars to mute or unmute yourself. You can also choose to have your camera on or off. Please do mute your microphone when you're not speaking. When I'm talking or sharing my screen, please write in the chat box and let me know if you can't see or hear something. And you're welcome to use the chat box throughout. I may not be watching closely while I'm talking, but I will do my best to come back to that every once in a while. And if I don't see your question or comment immediately, I will come back to it at the end. This session is being recorded, and I'll send you a link to that recording via email when it's available, along with links to resources shared during the session and those exercise files. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. What I'm doing now is opening up one of the exercise files. This file is titled CEU Accreditation Form, Organization, Untagged PDF. So CEU Accreditation Form, Organization, Untagged, and it's a PDF form. This exercise file, like the others, came from Adobe with their permission to use for training purposes. Before we get into any specifics, I'd like to show you what I do to set up my Acrobat for accessibility work. And I suggest you do the same, at least while you're learning. First, we'll enable the view of a couple of different navigation panes. And these are actually already here. I'm going to remove them just so we can re-add them. So in the left sidebar of the Adobe Acrobat Pro screen are shortcuts to navigation panes. We're going to be adding shortcuts to the order pane and the tags pane, and we're doing that by going to View in the toolbar at the top of the screen, View, Show Hide, Navigation panes, and the two we're adding are Order and Tags. So first Order, which adds the shortcut to the order pane, and then View, Show Hide, Navigation panes, Tags, which adds the shortcut to the tags pane. The tags pane is also sometimes called the tags panel or the tags tree. Those terms all refer to the same thing. Next, we'll add shortcuts to the two primary tools Adobe Acrobat Pro DC offers to assist content authors in creating accessible PDFs. One is called the Accessibility Toolset, which provides access to the accessibility checker, and the other is the Make Accessible action. So to add these shortcuts, we'll open the Tools tab. So again, up at the top of the screen, I'm selecting Tools. The first tool set we want to add a shortcut to is accessibility. I actually did that while doing some work this morning. So to add that, we search for the word accessibility and then choose add to add it, or once it's already added, as mine is, the option you'll see is open. So that's the shortcut in the right sidebar. The other I mentioned is the Make Accessible Action Wizard. So to find it, you search for the words Action Wizard. To add the shortcut, select Add, and that'll add a shortcut in the right sidebar. Since we're working specifically with forms today, we'll also want to make sure the Prepare Form tool is available. This one's usually there out of the box. It's already there on my screen. But if it weren't, I could search for Prepare Form, and that's the tool I would need to add. So accessibility, Action Wizard are the two we use most often with doing accessibility work, and Prepare Form is the one that we'll need to work with forms today. A key best practice when it comes to forms is to use only Acrobat Pro to create interactive form fields. So in other words, if you are using Microsoft Word to create a document that's eventually going to become a PDF form, don't add the form fields. Don't add the radio buttons or the check boxes or the text boxes. Don't add those in Word. Don't add those using Word's interactive form features. Instead, focus on creating an accessible source document in Word, one that visually identifies the form fields with labels, blanks, plenty of spacing, and so on, and then creating the PDF using the PDF Maker add-in. It's significantly easier and less steps to create an accessible interactive PDF form that starts in Word if you essentially create a document in Word and then add the form features later in Acrobat. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We'll be creating our accessible PDF form using what some accessibility specialists call the untagged method. So that is, we'll be starting with a PDF document that was originally authored in Word and made as accessible as possible from the start, then saved as a PDF using the Adobe Acrobat PDF Maker add-in. However, prior to adding form fields to the form, all of the tags have been deleted from the document. And this is because if you edit a document's original tags, then tag the form fields, your work can be overwritten. You'll get better results if you do all your form field work, then adding all the tags to the PDF at once. The tags have already been deleted from this exercise file. We can see this by opening the tags pane, which I have open right now. The pane says no tags available. Since the tags have already been deleted from this exercise file, let me quickly show you how to delete tags from a different document. I'm opening up the exercise file titled Delete Tags. It's another PDF. I'm opening up the tags panel. So we can see that this particular PDF does have tags, and that's because it was originally authored in Word to be as accessible as possible, and then was created as a PDF using that PDF Maker add-in. If we wanted to use the untagged method to create an accessible interactive PDF form, we would first delete these tags. So we can do that by right-clicking on the topmost tag that says Tags, and then choosing Delete Tag. And that will delete all of the tags from the document, and now reads no tags available. So that's how you delete tags from the document. And again, we do that because sometimes existing tags can get messed up when we do our form field work, and it's just easier to do all of our form work and then come in and do our tagging later. So I'm not going to say my changes. I'm going to switch back over to this exercise file we're going to be working with that already has had the tags removed. After deleting the tags from the document, we'll add the form fields. In the Tools pane in the right sidebar, I'm selecting the Prepare Form tool. And when I do that, the Prepare Form screen appears. A prompt appears. It says to begin, select a file, scan a document, or start from scratch. We are going to select the document we want to add form fields to. So by default, that's already the file that's active. So this is the file we want to work with. So we're going to leave that as is. I'm not going to select this document requires signature. Even if your form does require a signature, I advise, and this is something I learned from Adobe, not to check this document requires signature, even if it does require signatures. There's a bug where if you check this box, you'll lose some of the properties options for your form fields, some of which are pretty important for accessibility, like the ability to format dates. We want to make sure form field auto detection is on. That's what allows Acrobat to identify what looks like a blank, what looks like a place that will need a form field. That allows Adobe to identify that automatically and create form fields. We want that to be on, which it is, and then we'll select the blue Start button. And Acrobat goes ahead and attempts to add form fields to what was previously just a PDF document without any sort of interactive elements. Before we look at the form fields Acrobat has added based on the layout of the document, let's look at the layout of the Prepare Form tool functions. I'm hovering my mouse in the Prepare Form ribbon at the top of the screen. And here is where all of the form fields you might want to add manually can be found. I'm hovering my mouse over each of these options. Text, a text field, check boxes, radio buttons, lists of choices, drop downs, and so on. So this is the options we would use to manually add form fields. In the top right panel, where I'm circling my mouse, are the options for positioning the form fields: align, center, match size, and distribute. In the bottom of the right panel, or moving down the right panel, we first have a drop down for more tools. We'll access that in just a moment. And then we have a list of fields that are found in the form. And that's really the primary thing we're interested in here. The Fields pane shows the tab order, or the order in which a user will progress through the form fields when using the tab key to navigate the form. And tab order is really important for usability reasons. A lot of folks, regardless of ability status, will use the tab key when filling out a form to easily jump from one form field to the next without having to remove their hands from the keyboard. But for someone who only uses a keyboard and doesn't use a mouse, that's absolutely vital, as it is for someone who uses assistive technology like a switch to interact with the computer. So tab order, very important, and that is what's represented by the order of the fields listed here under Fields. So I'm going to collapse this right panel for now just to make our document a little more visible. Because we chose to use form field auto detection, Acrobat has added form fields based on the layout of the document. So one thing to be aware of is that Acrobat doesn't always get it right. The form fields that Acrobat adds will not always be exactly where you want them. Sometimes there could be extra fields, sometimes there could be missing fields. It is automatic. It's looking for things like blanks or colons or bold print in order to try to figure out where a form field should be. To delete an extra field, you can right-click on the field and select Delete from the resulting menu. I'm going to do that now with this first field, Program Title. Let's pretend that that shouldn't actually be a form field. So we would right-click on it and choose Delete to delete that form field. To add a missing form field, you select the type of field you want from the Prepare Form ribbon at the top of the screen, and then click on the place in the document where you want the field to appear. I'm going to replace the program title field I deleted, which is a text field. So I'm selecting the text field option in the ribbon at the top of the screen. So the tooltip reads Add a text field. And then I'm clicking in the document where I want that text field to be added, and it's here next to the words program title. So clicking there adds a text field. So the first thing to do is to ensure that all of the necessary fields are present. All the blanks or radio buttons or checkboxes that you need are there, and that no unnecessary fields are present. So any extra ones, go ahead and delete. After doing that, making sure all the necessary fields are there, you'll want to set or verify the properties for each field. I'm going to click once on the field I just added for program title. The form field that was previously outlined in black becomes outlined in blue, indicating it's the active field I'm working on. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag to resize this field, just to make it the length of the entire sort of blank that's visible there. Double clicking on a field opens up that field's properties. I'm going to do that now with the program title field. Double click on it, and it opens up the text field properties dialog. An alternate way to bring this up is to right click on the field and then choose properties. So what we're looking at here is in the General tab of the Text Field Properties dialog, we're looking at the name and the tooltip for this form field. At a minimum, in order to be accessible, every form field should have a name and a tooltip set for it in the properties. Acrobat will automatically set the tooltip based on the visible text next to the field, but you should still verify the correctness of the properties for each one. So this is the one I added from scratch. So Acrobat actually hasn't filled in anything here because I added this manually. So I'm going to have to type this in. So we're going to enter in program title for the name, and that's because the name should be the same as the visible label. So the visible text next to this form field reads program title. So we're going to make the name program title. The tooltip could be the same as the name. It often is the same as the name, or you might use that field to provide further context or instructions. In this case, I'm going to make it the same as the name, but we'll look at an example of where it might be different in just a moment. So again, every form field needs to have a name and a tooltip. The name should match the visible label of the form field. Acrobat will attempt to fill these in automatically, but you need to go through and check them to make sure that they're correct. One time-saving tip, once this text field properties window is open, you can leave it open and select other form fields to view their properties. This can save you lots of clicks along the way, and why most people suggest doing all your adding and deleting of fields before moving on to the properties. So for example, with the text field properties open, I can click on the date field and then review, and if need be, change the name and tooltip for date. I can click on the time field and review, and if need be, change those properties for the time field. Another time-saving tip for form fields that have similar properties. For example, the appearance options are usually the same throughout a form, or the options properties like alignment and things like that. You can also select multiple form fields at once to make those changes. That's not necessarily an accessibility task, just something to be aware of. So I'm going, we did program title. I'm going to select date now and go back to that general text field properties tab. The name looks good to me. Again, it should match that visible label, which is date. For the tooltip, I'm going to go to the Format tab and see if I've specified any formatting. A lot of times in a form where we ask someone to enter in a date or a phone number or a zip code or some other sort of numerical data, we ask them to use a particular format. So I'm gonna look at the Format tab. Doesn't look like that's been set. I'm going to set that and say that this field is going to be used for date, and that date should be in the form of month, month, day, day, year, year. So this is an example of where the tooltip might be different from the name. We need to provide this information that the required format is month, month, day, day, year, year to the assistive technology user. So I'm going to do that in the tooltip, month, month, / day, day, / year, year. So you can think of the tooltip as providing additional information that will help someone complete the form. And move on to time. That looks good to me. The name and tooltip are both present and correct. Move on to location. That looks good to me. Both the name and the tooltip are present and correct. We're not going to go through every one of these now, but we would if we were preparing to distribute this form or make it available on the web. For now, we're just really scanning this form for anything that might look funky. I'm going to close the text field properties so we can see the form a little better. Scanning down through the form, I'm noticing this group of questions under the heading, please check intended audience below. It says, please check intended audience below, and there are 3 possible responses: nursing home administrator, residential care administrator, and both. The 3 possible responses have been created as text fields when they really need to be checkboxes or a radio button. The directions say to check the intended audience, not to type in a response. If there wasn't a both option, I'd use checkboxes so respondents could select both nursing home administrator and residential care administrator. But since there is a both option, we can make all 3 of these fields radio buttons instead so that the person completing the form can select the one answer that's correct: nursing home administrator, residential care administrator, or both. Unfortunately, there's no way to change an existing field type to another field type. So there's not a way to change this text field to a radio button. So we'll have to remove these text boxes and replace them with radio buttons. So we can first select and delete them. And I'm going to select all 3 by holding down the Shift key when I click on them. So I'm holding down Shift to select all 3. I'm going to strike the Delete key on my keyboard to delete those form fields. In the ribbon at the top of the screen, I'm selecting the radio button field type. And I like how we get these little tooltips that kind of provide us some guidance on what type of form field to use. The tooltip reads, add radio buttons to enable selection from mutually exclusive options. So again, if someone can just select one of the options, radio button is what we want to use, not checkbox. So I'm selecting radio button. And then I'm adding the radio button where I want to add it, in this case next to nursing home administrator. The radio button dialog appears. Radio buttons need to be grouped. So the first thing we need to do is give this group of buttons a name. I'm going to call the group intended audience, since that's the language the text in the form uses. Please check intended audience. So intended audience is the name of the group. The name of this radio button choice is nursing home administrator. I'm going to select add another button to add the next button in the series and place it next to residential care administrator. When you use add another button, that group name will automatically be populated, so we don't have to fill that in. We just have to type in the label for the choice, which is residential care administrator, and then add another button to add our radio button for both. The group name is already present, intended audience, the choice is both. So that works. If we wish to do so, we can line the buttons up visually. The way we would do that is by using the alignment options in the Prepare Form tool. So I'm opening up the right sidebar so I can access those. We can select the buttons we wish to align. So I'm holding down the Shift key to select all three of those buttons, and then choose how I wish to align them. I think I'll align vertically, and that will line all three of those buttons up. There's some other fields in this form we need to fix. For address, for example, the fields are labeled address 1, address 2, address 3, address 4, address 5. Acrobat had a hard time naming some of these fields because they're visible labels. City, state, and zip, for example, are below rather than to the left of the blanks. The best place for a visible label, if you're going to have Acrobat automatically create form fields, is to the left of the form field. But we don't need to recreate the form or anything like that. We can just change these properties so they're more descriptive. So address 1, address 2, I'm going to leave that as is, but I'm going to change address 3 to city and city for the name and tooltip. State to state. I'm going to copy and paste state and state for the name and tooltip. And then address 5, zip for the name because the name matches the visible label. But in the tooltip, I'm going to just say zip code to be a little more clear. We need to think about not only how these things might be read by an assistive technology such as a screen reader, but also what we can do to help people who might have a cognitive disability understand what's being asked. So having tweaked those names and tooltips for those fields, I'm now going to close the text field properties boxes. So after ensuring that all of the form fields are present and that their properties are correct, we can turn our attention to tab order. And the tab order is the order in which a user will progress through the form fields when using the tab key to navigate the form. So the first thing we'll do is make sure that the Prepare Forms sidebar is expanded, which it is because we were just working with those alignment tools. In the Fields pane, we'll review the order of the fields and drag any out of order fields to the correct place. So essentially, we want these fields to be in the same order that they appear visually in the form, or in an order that's logical or makes sense. One that I know that we need to fix is intended audience because we added those and therefore they're down here at the bottom of the list of fields. So I'm going to collapse that group of buttons for intended audience. I'm going to move it up to where it should go in the tab order. And that is looking at the form visually. So in the tab order, it looks like intended audience should go after registration fee. So I'm clicking on it, dragging it. It's probably going to take a couple different times to do this. Dragging it up under registration fee. There we go. So now someone who's using the tab key to go from field to field would arrive on this registration fee field, hit tab, and then be taken to the check intended audience below question. I'm going to check to see how it handled the changes we made to the address fields. That looks good to me. Address 1, address 2, then city, state, zip. One thing that's a little different than the visual appearance of the form is that visually, phone comes after address 2, but I'm actually okay with it being where it is in the tab order. I think it makes more sense to ask someone to type out their address and then their phone number rather than stop typing their address, type their phone number, and then continue typing their address. So I think that's fine to be where it is. So this is looking pretty good to me in terms of tab order. Oh, program title, which we also added manually, definitely needs to be moved. So I'm going to move that up to the top. So it'll let me go to the top, it's just slow. So here we go. Program title actually comes, come on, there we go, first before date. So just to review, what we've done so far is ensured that the document did not have any tags, used the Prepare Form tool to auto-generate form fields, reviewed the properties for those form fields to make sure they all had names and tooltips, and we've now checked the tab order for the form fields. Next, we'll preview the form by selecting Preview. And that's the blue button in the toolbar at the top of the screen. I'm selecting Preview now. Preview allows us to navigate through the document and fill things out. So I'm going to hit Tab. Whoops. Oh no. So you guys can't see this message because it's on a different screen, but it says Adobe Acrobat DC has stopped working. Hold on just a second. I'm going to see if I can save my work. Gotta love technology. Hopefully it saved my work. We'll see. All right. I'm opening up Prepare Forms. Didn't save all of my work. But enough that I think we should be okay. Okay. Let me move program title back up to where it needs to go. This time I'm going to hit save before I hit preview. I'm going to save. All right, now we're going to preview the form. And again, this will just allow us to check the form to see that it's functioning as we intended. So I'm going to hit the tab key to hopefully tab into the first form field, which is program title. Now the mouse cursor is positioned in that form field. It's blinking to show us the focus is there. I'm going to hit tab again, and I'm now in the date format. We can check our date format by starting to type the date. So I'm going to say, I'm going to type it in the wrong format, November 4th, 2019. Tab off of it, and it did automatically correct to the correct format, so that's great. The formatting worked. I'm going to just keep tabbing to show that that's working. So time, location, number of hours, ethics, regulations, registration fee. Scroll down a little bit so we can see. So now I'm here at my group of radio buttons. Radio buttons for keyboard users navigate with the arrows. So we'll use the down arrows to navigate through and make a selection. So I'm currently have nursing home administrator in focus. I'm striking down, have residential care administrator in focus, down for both, up for residential care, up for nursing home, and so on. So I'm going to pretend I want to respond both, down, down. And now I'm tabbing to the name of person, agency affiliation. Let's take a look at our address to see if those changes took place. Address 1, address 2, city, state, zip, then phone. So things are looking good. I'm not clicking close at this point. Rather, I'm going to go back into edit mode. And I'm going to do that just to clear out anything that I entered into the form while I was testing it. So I'm doing that by going into these More tools and choosing Clear Form. Now I'll select Close, and for example, those radio buttons won't be selected, and the date won't be in there. I'm a fan of saving early and often, just in case, as the brief crash illustrated earlier. So I'm going to save a copy of this by going to File, and then Save As. I'm going to save it in this folder. I'm going to change the name of it to, I'm going to say Form Fields Added, just to remind myself where I was in the process when I saved it. I'm going to choose Save. So after all of the form fields have been created and the tab order has been checked, we'll then add tags to the document. So you want to be sure you're happy with all of the form field configurations before proceeding, since going back to correct them after the tags are created can sometimes have unpredictable results. There's several different ways to add tags to a PDF. We're going to use auto tagging. You can access the auto tag feature in a couple different ways. One is by opening the accessibility tools in the right sidebar, which I'm doing now, and then selecting auto tag document. The other is via the tags pane. Since we know we're going to have to do some work in the tags pane anyway, I'm going to go with that. So in the left sidebar, I'm selecting the shortcut to the tags pane. So that's represented by an icon that looks like a luggage tag. In the tags pane, I'm going to right click where it currently says no tags available and choose add tags to document. And now tags will be added in the tags pane. This is just a summary of which tags were added. So I'm selecting the tags pane so we can see the list of tags that were added. That's good, we have tags now. Next, we need to ensure these tags are correct. So if you've done any PDF accessibility training before, you'll remember that tags are really the basis of an accessible PDF file. When we talk about accessible PDFs, it's more complicated than this, but essentially what we really mean is that the document includes actual text, so text that could be copied and pasted, or text that we could search in and get a match rather than just an image of text, and that the PDF has tags. Tags indicate the structure of a document. They communicate the order in which the items in the document should be read, and they determine exactly which items will be read by assistive technologies like screen readers. So it's vital that the tags in our document correctly reflect the function of any given item, text, image, table, and so on, and that the tags are in the correct order. So the process for this is the same as it is for PDF files that don't have form fields, as it would be for any other PDF. And that's using the arrow keys on the keyboard to navigate the tag tree and making any corrections as necessary. So we don't have time to make all the necessary tag corrections in this document, but we'll get started with the ones that are particularly important for forms. So in other words, I'm going to leave it to you to fix things like changing this P tag, this single P tag that includes all of this text, these several lines of text, to multiple P tags instead. Or another change I'm spotting that would need to be made is changing the heading tag so that the first heading used in the document isn't an H4 or a fourth level heading. The exercise files include a final version of this with the correct tags and tag orders for you to peruse on your own. The way I'd suggest doing it is that you attempt to correct the tags and then go in and compare your results to the solution file. If you decide to do that, feel free to let me know if you have any questions about that document and why things are tagged as they are. But what we are going to do is fix the tags that are relevant specifically to forms. So I'm going to return to the slides and bring up a reference for us. When it comes to form tagging, the most important thing to ensure that your form tags have, the most important thing is to ensure that your form tags have this format. So for each form field, there is a form tag with a nested field name OBJR tag. So the form tag appears after and as a peer of the tag containing the text label of the field. So in this case, for the field program title, the relevant tags are a paragraph tag that includes the text program title, then after and as a peer of program title, the form tag for the program title field with the child tag program title OBJR. So essentially, we're making sure that this pattern is being followed for each of the tags for form fields. So I'm switching back over to the exercise file. There's lots of opportunities to practice fixing this formatting in this exercise file. In the tag tree, in the tag panel in the left sidebar, I'm selecting this second P tag. When I select that tag, when I bring it into focus, you can see by the visual highlighting that there is a lot of stuff under this one tag. And this becomes even more evident when you expand it. I'm expanding this paragraph tag. So all under this one paragraph tag, we have program title, we have date, location, number of contact hours requested, and so on. So all of this are all in one P tag. We need to correct this so they're each in separate P tags. So we're going to do that in 2 steps. First, we'll create P tags for each of the items. So let's see how many of those are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 items we'll create P tags for. Then, under each of those 9 P tags, we'll ensure we have a tag containing the text label of the field and a form tag with a nested field name OBJR tag. So I'm going to collapse this for now. Select the P tag where I want the new tags to be. So I'm going to add them here. I'm right-clicking and selecting New Tag. For the type of tag I want to add, I'm going to choose paragraph to add a paragraph tag. And I'm going to leave the title blank and select OK. That adds a new blank paragraph tag to the tag tree. I need 9 of these, so I'm going to do this 8 more times. New tag, paragraph, new tag, paragraph, new tag, paragraph, new tag, paragraph. Continuing to add. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 2 more. New tag, paragraph. Finally, new tag, paragraph. So now I have my 9 empty paragraph tags ready for their text labels and the form tags. So next, I'll move the content where it already exists into the empty P tags. I'm not even going to worry about the form fields right now. I'm just getting the actual visible content of the document into the right places. So I'm going to select the arrow in the ribbon at the top of the screen, the selection tool, and make sure it's blue, which it is. Now I'm selecting the first empty P tag. So I've selected it. It too is blue. Now with my mouse, I'm going to select the visible title date. Both the text I've selected and the empty P tag should be blue. Sometimes you have to kind of click back and forth to make sure they both maintain their focus. But you know you're ready for the next step when they're both blue. My trainer called this blue and blue. So we're looking for blue and blue, blue tag, blue content. After making sure they're both blue, we can right click on the MTP tag, choose create tag from selection, and now we have date under that P tag. We would repeat this process for the remaining items that we need to nest under paragraph tags. I'm selecting the next paragraph tag, selecting the visible text time, right-clicking, choosing create tag from selection. I'm just going to continue to kind of progress through these. The next one is location. Create tag from selection. Number of contact hours requested. Create tag from selection. Ethics. Create tag from selection. Almost done. Select paragraph tag. Regulations. Create tag from selection. Registration fee. Create tag from selection. And then the last one we'll do is the please check intended audience below. I think I miscounted how many I needed because that's the last one I'm going to do. Please check intended audience below. Create tag from selection. So I've done that, selected the MTP tag, selected the visible text, made sure the blue was matching blue, and then right-clicked to choose create tag from selection. Now that we have all the P tags correct, we need to find the form tags that go with them. So remember, I'll switch back to our reference. The structure for this is the P tag with the visible label, and then following that visible label, form tag, and then as a child of the form tag, the OBJR tag. So that's what we're attempting to recreate for each of these. Going back into the document. So a lot of these are actually already present in the PDF. They were just all kind of lumped together. So I'm opening up the P tag where these were already present and seeing where I can maybe just copy one and paste it, or cut it and paste it. So for example, let's see, we've already got a form tag for time and date. I actually don't need both, but I can cut it, cut the form tag for time and date, go to the P tag that I added for time and date, and paste it. Or I could create a new one. I could go to the paragraph tag where I've added the visible text label for date, right click on it, choose new tag, and choose form tag. And then say OK. So it didn't quite put it in the right spot. Yeah, it did. No, it didn't. I need to nest that under paragraph. There we go. Because we want form to be underneath paragraph in the hierarchy. So now all we need is that object reference for date. So I can go in, find it, cut it, and paste it. Where'd I go? No, I don't see it. I cut and paste a little too aggressively. I'd have to add a new one. Okay, I'll do the one for ethics then, since I didn't cut it. So Again, each of these needs to have a nested form tag and an OBJR. So we can, for registration fee, find the one that we added for registration fee, create that form. So create a new tag for form. Make sure that it's nested under paragraph. And then grab that OBJR, cut it, and paste it as a child of form. So it's tedious, right? We have to do that for every single one of these form fields. But essentially what our goal is to have this structure. For each form field, there is a form tag with a nested field name. So in this case, program title is the field name, OBJR tag. And that form field tag appears after and as a peer of the tag containing the text label of the field. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to jump ahead to the final version and open up the tag panel so we can see what this actually ends up looking like after we've done all this work. So for example, program title, we've got the paragraph tag that includes the visible text program title. Then as a child of that, the form tag that includes the program title OBJR tag. Next, tag date. It's a paragraph tag that includes the visible text labeled date, then a child tag for form with the date OBJR form. And that pattern is going to continue throughout the document. This is one of the reasons why it is so important when you're doing the properties that in the field name, that the name is identical to the visible label text. So let me go into that to illustrate this. So program title, remember we wanted this name to be the same as the visible text label. That's going to help us so much when we're going through our form and ensuring that this proper structure is being followed, because we'll be able to find the tag for that visible text label and the tag for the OBJR or object reference because they have the same name. So be sure to follow that step. So back in the exercise file, I want to point out something to you really quickly. So you might notice I was having a little trouble kind of going through this paragraph tag that included lots of tags that should not have been included there that needed to be moved out under their own paragraph tags. If we want to know if we already have a separate P tag for something, we can do a find. So let's say I don't know where in this tag tree the paragraph tag for city is. We can go up to the ribbon, make sure that selection arrow is blue, which it is. Highlight the visible text city, which I'm doing now. Go to the options drop down in the tags panel and choose find tag from selection. And that will help you locate where that tag is. Now this isn't correct. We actually need 3 separate paragraph tags for city, state, and zip, but it illustrates that it's a lot faster than trying to expand and collapse and search for a tag. So again, to see if a tag already exists and where it is, you can select the visible text label, go into the tag panel options and choose find tag from selection. And that's going to come in handy with any type of PDF accessibility work. Unfortunately, the same doesn't exist for form fields. You can't select a form field and say find the form field. You have to look for those in the tag tree. So there's some other work to be done to finalize this PDF, but that's the process. Just to review, we've really followed 4 steps. Delete the existing tags, add the form fields, which we did using the Prepare Form tool, set and verify the form field properties, which we did using the Prepare Form tool, then add tags to the document, which we did using auto tagging. Forms are hard. They take a lot of work. The things that make it easier are auto-generating the form fields and auto-tagging, which is why we did those things today. There are always exceptions. Depending on the nature of the document, you might not delete all the tags before you add the form fields. You might manually add form fields or manually add tags or both. Today's is really just one possible workflow. I'm happy to refer you to resources that address other scenarios. I'm going to stop here. I hope that you found this useful and that you won't hesitate to reach out to us if we can help you put what you learned into practice. You can contact our team at accessibility.ua.edu or email us at accessibility@ua.edu. I'm putting our contact information in the chat. That's all I have. I'm going to stop the recording and ask if anyone has any questions or thoughts to share, that you do that by turning on your mic or in the chat box. I'm stopping the recording now.